Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the shadowy halls of Castle Druth, where oil lamps flicker even when they've long burned out, and the stone corridors seem to sigh when no one's around. You'll feel the chill before you see the door, the one that never opens, the one that was sealed after Prince Alaric disappeared without a trace. No forced entry, no blood, no noise, just gone. And here's the kicker. They still say his laughter echoes in the West Wing. Sleep tight, right? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. I always love seeing those. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. It's the winter of 1883, and the rain won't stop. You're trudging across gravel through a sheet of freezing wind, boots sinking into the sodden ground as Castle Drew looms in the darkness like a crouching beast. The gas lamps along the drive flicker with orange halos, barely punching through the mist. Somewhere inside, a prince is going to vanish, and you're about to be there when it happens. Prince Alaric of Drew is 11 years old, not particularly tall, not especially charming, but something about him draws people in. It might be his clever little smirk, the kind that says, "I know something you don't." Or maybe it's the strange habit he has of pausing mid-sentence, like he's hearing someone else talk, someone only he can hear. You follow a scullery maid up to the nursery. She's muttering about the storm. This rain smells wrong, like copper and lilacs. You think she's just being dramatic, but then you smell it too. It doesn't make sense. Why would flowers be blooming in December? Alaric is asleep in his chamber, tucked beneath a heavy quilt, embroidered with the family crest, a silver stag crowned in flame. A fire crackles in the grate. The windows are sealed, the heavy door locked from the inside. There are 2 guards posted outside. This is the last moment anyone will see him. In the morning, you're there when they open the door. The quilt's still warm, the fire's low, and Alaric is simply not there. No broken glass, no signs of struggle, just a faint impression in the pillow and the slightest scorch mark at the foot of the bed. Historians still argue whether this was a kidnapping or something stranger. Official records say illness took the boy, that he died suddenly in the night and was buried in the royal crypt. But there's no death certificate, no funeral, and not a single photograph of a casket. Here's where it gets truly eerie. One of the guards stationed outside swears he heard Alaric talking around midnight. He was whispering, laughing, like he wasn't alone in there. He mutters, refusing to meet your eyes. And when they pressed him, he insisted the voice he heard wasn't Alaric's. It was older, female, and somehow echoing from beneath the floor. You examine the stone hearth, where the fire still glows faintly. That's when you see it, a smear of ash that doesn't match the soot. It smells different too, like burnt lavender. You touch it and instantly pull back. It's cold, ice cold, even though it's resting right by the embers. And then you find the first clue no one else noticed. Behind the door, hidden by the swinging wood, there's a faint outline scratched into the stone wall, a circle with 7 tiny stars and an eye in the center. Someone tried to rub it out, but it's still visible. It looks like something out of an alchemy manual, nothing royal or regal about it. That night, You explore the hallway outside Alaric's room. A tapestry flutters without wind. From down the corridor, you hear a piano key strike just one, and silence follows. The family says no one plays piano in this wing. Not anymore. And here's your historical anchor. Drew Castle really did exist. Nestled in what is now eastern Luxembourg, it was known for its architectural oddities, angled staircases, asymmetrical wings, doors that opened onto brick walls. Even Mark Twain, during his 1891 European tour, wrote in a letter that Drew gave him a headache of the imagination. No mention of a missing prince, though, of course not, because that part was wiped clean. Back in the nursery, you notice the rocking horse is still swaying gently. You stop it. Moments later, it begins again, slow and deliberate. There's no draft, no explanation, and that's when the family starts shutting down. The queen refuses to leave her chambers. The king issues no public statement. Staff are replaced. The hallway is sealed, and the very next day, a portrait of Alaric is removed from the grand gallery. Not stored, burned, but one person doesn't fall in line. The young governess, Miss Thea Blythe, starts asking questions, and not quietly. She writes letters to distant cousins, sketches the strange circle from the wall, and even records the recurring dream she's been having Alaric, standing in a hallway of glass, reaching out but never quite able to touch the door. She says he's trapped, somewhere adjacent, but she never finishes the journal. It ends mid-sentence, with a blot of ink like the pen was yanked from her hand. So what happened that night? Was it a human crime or something else entirely? One thing's for sure, Alaric didn't walk out. That room was sealed like a tomb, and yet he's gone, just like a ghost. And tomorrow, you're going to find something hidden in the portrait room. Something that isn't quite paint, but you're not there yet. Not quite. The air in the portrait room smells like old varnish and thunder. You're standing among tall oil paintings of powdered faces and tight-lipped monarchs, each one staring out like they know your secrets. Their eyes follow you, of course they do. It's just bad brushwork and your tired imagination. Right, except one pair of eyes is missing. The frame where Prince Alaric's portrait should hang is empty. Only a pale square on the stone wall remains, like a ghost still holding its space. A polite little sign reads, "Temporarily removed for restoration," but a footman half whispering, as if the walls have ears, tells you it was taken down the day after Alaric disappeared. Didn't want people asking the wrong questions, he says, scrubbing his hands like they're permanently dirty, or the right ones. You step closer to the empty space. There's dust on the wall, sure, but also something else. Scratches, very faint, almost like letters. You squint, no, not letters. Symbols, circles, a serpent swallowing its tail. That strange eye again, the one with 7 dots above it like a crown of planets. And then comes the smell. Lavender again, faint and smoky, like incense left to die. It doesn't belong here. There are no candles, no flowers. It drifts from behind the wall itself. You press your ear to the stone, more out of foolishness than expectation, and still, you hear it a tiny click and a breath. You jerk back, probably a rat. Right, except rats don't sigh. Behind the paintings, you find a crack between the stones, just wide enough to slide a finger into. You shouldn't, obviously, but you do, and the panel moves. The wall creaks open like a secret door in a mystery novel, revealing a narrow crawl space barely wider than your shoulders. It smells of old paper and something sweeter, like rosewater gone rancid. You're definitely not supposed to be here, and if Castle Drew's security system were even a little competent, this would be the part where alarms wail. But the castle doesn't believe in cameras or staff that ask too many questions. Inside the space, it's dark and lined with wood slats, old scaffolding, maybe no. Closer look, it's painted with tiny scenes, childhood scenes. A boy climbing a tree, a silver stag galloping across a black meadow, and one panel that's been violently scratched out. Only splinters and streaks of dark crimson remain. Near the end of the crawl space, you find a bundle of cloth, something wrapped carefully in old lace. You unfold it and freeze. It's a corner of a canvas, burned on one side, but the eye is unmistakable. Alaric's portrait, his face is mostly intact, cheeks a little too pale, lips in a near smile, but his eyes aren't looking out. They're looking sideways, towards something outside the frame, and you feel, for the briefest moment, like they're asking you for help. Underneath the canvas is a tiny velvet pouch. Inside it, something hard and cold, a shard of mirror, about the size of your palm. The edges are smooth, like it was cut deliberately. You hold it up and see your own face and then someone else's, just for a second, behind your shoulder. You whirl around. The crawl space is empty. The silence that follows is not comforting. Here's your historical anchor during renovation work in 1936. Castle Drew was found to have several undocumented service tunnels behind the portrait gallery. Most were bricked up and forgotten, but just one was discovered containing scraps of fabric and what some believed to be a fragment of an original painting by court artist Gaspard Dufresne. No one mentioned the burned edge or the missing boy. And now for your quirky tidbit. Some visitors claim the gallery is cold even in summer. A Danish tourist once described it as like walking through a freezer full of judgment. Others say their cameras glitch near the north wall, or worse, that they captured extra hands in their selfies. You crawl back into the main room, heart hammering like you've just escaped something instead of finding it. The panel shuts behind you on its own. No mechanism, no latch, just closes, as if it knows you're done here. But you're not even close, because that night, in the quiet of your room, you unwrap the canvas again, just to look, and this time, you notice something new, a smear of gray paint on Alaric's collar that wasn't there before. You could swear on anything you want it's fresh, not centuries old. You rub at it, it doesn't come off. And his mouth, was it always slightly open? Historians still argue whether the original portrait was destroyed or merely hidden to avoid public scrutiny. One theory, dismissed by most, suggests that Alaric's portrait was never painted at all, that the original artist died the night before his sitting, and the replacement created a piece from memory, or perhaps something even stranger, a dream, a vision, an obsession. You sleep with the painting under the bed because your curiosity is officially stronger than your survival instincts. But around 3 a.m., you wake up to the scent of smoke and lavender. Again, this time, the canvas is face down on the floor, and the mirror shard, it's missing. In its place, a wet footprint. Just one. Tomorrow, you'll meet the only person who may have understood what happened that night, Thea Blythe, the governess who disappeared without a word and left behind only a journal that ends mid-sentence. But for now, you stare at the footprint. It's not a child's. It's narrow, feminine, barefoot, and freshly damp. You don't sleep after that. Not really. The scent of lavender has settled into the very seams of your sheets, and you keep checking the mirror on the closet door to make sure it's still your reflection looking back. It is, probably, but sometimes, just for a flash, your mouth isn't moving when theirs is. When morning finally drags its sleepy body over the hills, you leave the portrait room behind and descend into the staff quarters, deeper and dustier than they should be. You're hunting for someone, the governess, Thea Blythe, the one who watched over Alaric, the one who vanished 2 nights after he did. There's no official record of where she went, no travel logs, no resignation letter, just a neat trunk in her room, left unopened for over a century, and a single diary left behind, closed so tightly the leather has fused around the edges. You shouldn't open it, but of course, you do. The first few pages are exactly what you'd expect daily routines. What Alaric had for breakfast, boiled egg. Disgusted, flung it at Pigeon, and notes about his lessons. She adored him. That much is obvious. A curious little knot of a boy. She writes, he sees what isn't there, and describes it in such detail that I sometimes believe he's the one who's real, and I'm merely a memory wearing boots. Charming. Right then, around page 25, the tone changes. She begins to describe strange occurrences small at first, Galaric humming songs that haven't been written yet, refusing to sleep in his bed on Thursdays, drawing maps of rooms no one's ever seen, with doorways that lead nowhere and staircases labeled don't. And then she sees something. 9th December, I watched him speaking into the empty fireplace. I assumed he was playing, but then he turned, mid-sentence, and said, she's not talking to you yet, only me. When I asked who, he said, the mirror mother. Historians still argue whether this is an early case of childhood delusion or a more chilling glimpse into whatever lurked in Castle Drew. Skeptics say it's a mix of sleep deprivation and the Gothic atmosphere, but believers, well, they think Alaric was in contact with something or someone, and that Miss Blythe wasn't far behind. 3 days before her disappearance, she records a full-page diagram of that same circle you found behind the portrait. The eye, the 7 stars, only now she's added words beneath it, in Latin non perierat, transiet. He is not lost. He has passed through. Passed through what? Exactly. By now, you're tracing her final movements, trying to piece together what she might have discovered. Servants said she started locking her door at night, refused to light candles, slept with a mirror covered in black cloth. For silence, she told the laundress, so it doesn't wake up. That's not a phrase you want echoing in your skull at bedtime. You press on, guided by her last few entries. The second to last reads, he came to me again in the blue hour. Said he walks among the still people. Said I must follow soon, while the door still breathes. Poetic, terrifying. And then the final line, there's a mirror beneath the nursery, and nothing after that. Just an ink blot, a faint drag across the page, as though the pen kept moving, but the hand was taken away. That evening, you return to the nursery. It hasn't been touched in years, though some say they still hear giggling at night. You move the bed, check under the rug. Nothing. Then, as you kneel, your palm brushes against a floorboard that feels too cold. You knock. It answers, hollow. Prying it up reveals a small cavity, and nestled within is a mirror, round, handheld, with a mother-of-pearl handle. The glass is cloudy, faintly warped, as if it's underwater. You pick it up, and suddenly, the room falls completely silent. The wind outside, the creaks of the floor, even the beating of your own heart seem muffled, like you've slipped inside something else. In the mirror, your reflection doesn't match. Your mouth moves slower. Your eyes blink out of sync. Behind you, the rocking horse rocks, and on its fourth sway forward, it stops. Someone is holding it. You spin, no one there. But the mirror has changed. In it, behind your shoulder, a second figure stands, small, pale, smiling. You drop it. The mirror doesn't shatter, but your stomach does something complicated and upset. You leave it there, unable to look at it again. The temperature returns to normal. The sounds of the world trickle back, but you're not sure they belong to the same world anymore. For your odd historical tidbit of the evening in 1901, an anonymous spiritualist published a pamphlet titled The Mirror That Sleeps, claiming to have received visions from a child prince of black stone halls. Most wrote it off as Victorian nonsense, but the author signed it T. Blythe. Coincidence maybe, or maybe she didn't vanish at all. Maybe she passed through, just like Alaric, just like the mirror suggested. Tomorrow, you'll find that Castle Drew has one more secret, a wing that doesn't exist on any map, a place the royals have never mentioned, where everything is frozen in time. But for now, you close the journal, and you swear, even with your eyes shut, that you can still see that faint Latin phrase burned behind your eyelids. He is not lost. He has passed through. The next morning, you ask about the East Wing, which is bold, considering no one talks about the East Wing. At least, not out loud. The butler pretends not to hear you. The groundskeeper gives a shrug that could mean maybe, or run while you still can. Finally, a young maid with nervous hands and a backpack full of rosary beads says quietly, "There is no East Wing," which would be helpful if you hadn't already seen it from the outside. You remember 3 towers on the north face, but from inside the castle, only 2. You count again just to be sure. Still 2. You might even laugh if you weren't so incredibly certain that a 3rd window blinked last night. So, naturally, you go looking for it. The halls here twist in ways that buildings should not. One corridor loops around twice before bringing you back to the same coat of arms you passed 10 minutes ago. You mark it with chalk, then find 2 more, already marked. Your sense of direction begins to peel off like old wallpaper, but eventually, you find it a door behind a curtain, nestled in a forgotten alcove. The doorknob is cool. The hinges creak like they haven't moved in 100 years. And the smell, ah yes, our old friend lavender, back like a bad habit. Behind the door, a long hallway. Dust hangs in the air like it's afraid to settle. Thick carpets muffle your steps. Along the walls are portraits you don't recognize, figures in outdated robes, some with their faces scratched out or smeared with something dark. The nameplates are missing. Only a few survive, and they're all etched with the same thing: Tempest Exodus. Time of departure. You pass a tall grandfather clock. It's still ticking. The time reads 4:14 and stays there no matter how long you stare. The second hand trembles, but never moves. Then just past a velvet curtain, you find it. The missing room. It's a sitting room, ornate, perfect, frozen. A tea set is arranged on the table, untouched but slightly stained, as though someone poured but never drank. The fireplace is cold. The chairs are velvet, moth-eaten and delicate, and in one of them, a child-sized indentation in the cushion, as if someone only just stood up. On the mantel, a photograph, black and white, the boy Alaric, and beside him, a woman, severe, unsmiling. She wears a crown of pearls, and in the reflection behind them, yes, there it is again, the eye, the symbol etched faintly into the window pane. You press your hand to the glass. It's warm. The outside looks different through it, grayer, blurred, like a different season, and that's when you hear it. Soft music, lilting through the vents. A lullaby, maybe, or a waltz slowed down to almost nothing. It pulls you down the hallway until you reach the nursery again. But this one's different, not the same as before. This one is older, dustier, and yet the toys are laid out as if someone's expecting company. One of the dolls turns its head, or maybe it's just your imagination. You're very frayed, barely holding it together imagination. There's a trunk at the foot of the bed, locked. You fish out a hairpin, yes, yes. You are that person now, and it clicks open after a moment. Inside letters, dozens of them, all addressed to my dearest Alaric, signed in the same tight, slanted script Thea B. You scan a few. They're heartbreaking, rambling, desperate. They tell me you were never born, but I remember you. They say no prince lived here since the old king died childless, but I taught you to read. They think I've gone mad, but the mirror says otherwise. One letter ends mid-sentence. Again, the last word, doorway. That doorway isn't metaphorical. You find it behind the bookshelf, a sliding panel, painted the same floral pattern as the wallpaper. Behind it, a spiral staircase. Naturally, it's lit by flickering gas lamps, even though gas hasn't run through this wing in years. You descend, and each step echoes like a heartbeat. At the bottom, a circular room, stone walls, a high ceiling that disappears into darkness, and in the center, an enormous mirror, mounted like an altar. Its frame is wrought iron, twisted into vines and serpents and, yes, eyes. So many eyes, watching, closed, waiting. This is where it happened. You know it the way you know when a room has recently been crying. There are no lights, but the mirror glows faintly from within. Not with reflection. There is no reflection. Just mist. Clouds swirling beneath the surface like a storm trapped in glass. One touch, just one. Your fingertip grazes it, and the chill leaps through your body like lightning. Your vision stutters. The walls flash. For a moment, you're somewhere else. Corridors of gray stone, flickering torchlight, children whispering in a language you don't understand. And then you're back, sweating, trembling, but very much awake. For tonight's historical anchor, the East Wing was officially sealed off in 1817 after a fire allegedly destroyed part of the structure. But no record of that fire exists in local archives, and the foundation's footprint still suggests a larger blueprint. Some believe the wing wasn't destroyed, just hidden. Now your weird tidbit: in 1982, a team of urban explorers snuck into Castle Drew and claimed to have found a room full of child-sized chairs arranged in a circle around an empty mirror frame. They took one photo. It was later developed as a blank negative. The whole group refused to return. Historians still argue whether the mirror in the East Wing ever existed. Some say it was removed after Thea Blythe vanished. Others claim it was never a mirror at all, but a frame around something else, a portal, a veil, a doorway that breathes. You leave the wing with the image of that mist-filled glass seared into your memory, and for the rest of the night, you avoid mirrors, even your phone screen, because now, whenever you look too long, you don't just see yourself, you see movement behind you. You decide to sleep with the closet light on, which is ironic, because you're pretty sure closets are where this thing lives. But at this point, you'd rather deal with shadows on the ceiling than risk another midnight visit from a mirror version of yourself who blinks out of sync and whispers soon. So you dive deeper, not into dreams, no. Those are off limits for now, but into records, old ones, yellowing ledgers, hidden censuses, letters written in the kind of spidery ink that makes you wonder if quills were actually just haunted sticks. You're searching for someone to make sense of it all, and eventually you find him, Alaric's father, Prince Erwald of Drus. Now, Erwald is a name that history pretends to forget. He wasn't supposed to be king. He was the quiet brother, the spare in a world that only cared about heirs. He painted kept bees, spoke Latins to ravens, according to one gossip-prone tutor, and then, just as his older brother fell mysteriously ill, Erwald was named regent on the condition that he produce an heir. Enter Alaric. But here's the twist. Official records don't acknowledge Alaric as legitimate. Some even suggest he never existed. And yet, there are paintings, there are toys, that dusty nursery, the governess's letters, and now, buried deep in a sealed-off family crypt, a tiny marble headstone inscribed with a single name, A. Dreux, 1807, no death date, just a question mark. You run your fingers over it, and for the first time, the stone feels warm, not good. Your research leads you to a private collection, one of those not technically open to the public archives, kept in a velvet-draped basement behind a taxidermy museum. The curator is ancient, blind in one eye, and wears gloves even indoors. He says little, but hands you a folder without a word. It smells faintly of coal smoke and cinnamon. Inside, letters from Erwald himself. At first, they're loving, devoted, a father overwhelmed with joy. But then, the cracks begin. One letter is nothing but repetitions of a phrase. He came from her and she from the glass. Then this, from a torn page. Alaric does not sleep. He waits, and when he sings, the clocks stop. Finally, a letter addressed not to family, but to an unnamed monk in the Carpathians. It has begun. She wants him back. I was warned not to name her, but what father denies his only son the chance to live? And that's the first time you see it, the name, scrawled in a rush, as if writing it hurt him. Viralai, not a person, not a place, a being. You shiver. Some fringe historians believe Viralai isn't a name at all, but an echo of an ancient music, form French, medieval, cyclical, a song that loops endlessly, with no true beginning or end. The name that sings itself, they call it, because according to legend, Viralai isn't summoned by speech. She's heard by those who listen, and Alaric, it seems, listened too closely. Your scholarly debate moment of the evening. Some researchers think Alaric was real, but died young and tragically tuberculosis, maybe, or scarlet fever. Others claim he was fabricated to hide a scandal or mental illness in the royal line. But a growing fringe suggests something darker, that Alaric was given to something, or worse, taken back. You think of Thea's journal, of the mirror beneath the nursery, of the East Wing's frozen parlor, a ritual, a promise, a trade. And then you remember the phrase she wrote again and again, "He is not lost. He has passed through." It's starting to feel less like poetry and more like a destination. For your fringe fact of the night, a 19th century medium named Madame Clotilde claimed to have channeled a boy prince of silver halls who did not breathe as we do, but hummed. She was found dead days later, her mouth sealed with wax. Her final note, a single word, Viralai. No one knows how she spelled it. Every record is different. Sometimes it's Viralai, other times Virelai or Virale, like the word itself doesn't want to be caught. By now, you're knee-deep in one unsettling question. If Alaric passed through, where did he go? And you find a possible answer deep in the crypts of Castle Drew, past the sealed chapel. Through the corridor with statues that always seem to face you, you find a locked iron door. A warning is carved above it in Latin, et vos, qui tangitis transitum, redeatis mutati. You who touch the passage, return changed. You really should turn back. You don't. The room beyond is circular, domed, empty except for a ring of mirrors standing upright in a perfect circle, 7 of them, all covered with black cloth, each cloth embroidered with the same stitched word, transit. In the center, an octagonal stone slab, etched with the eye, the stars, the same circle. You stand there and feel a vibration through your shoes, faint, like a hum, a song. Something inside you recognizes the rhythm. You don't know the words, but you could almost sing them. And as you step back, your reflection in the nearest mirror doesn't move with you. No, it stays still, watching, smiling, and then it lifts one hand. You don't. The mirror moves first, not shattering, not blinking, just shifting, like liquid held upright. Your reflection stays locked in place, arm outstretched in that unsettling, almost wave. It doesn't blink. You do. You take a step back, and it steps forward. Behind the glass, let's be clear, this is not the part where you scream and run. That would be too easy, too final. Instead, you freeze, like your spine's replaced with glass. There's a low thrum in your ears now, almost like cello strings being bowed underwater. You hear a voice, maybe yours, maybe not whispering Viralai. You don't remember saying it, but the moment it leaves your lips, the mirror clouds. The figure in the glass tilts its head. The air in the crypt drops a few degrees, and somewhere above, You hear a faint clicking, like the sound of too many clocks winding in sync. You think of Alaric. You think of his silent portraits, of Thea's tear-stained letters, of the lavender scent that trails him like a lullaby soaked in ink. And then you see it. Behind the mirror, no. Within it, a room, the nursery, not yours. Not the dusty, faded one from the castle, but the other one, brighter. Gold trim on the ceiling, toys that move gently, even without a breeze, and a boy back turned, kneeling over a pile of wooden animals. He hums. The song is wordless, but the rhythm is familiar. 3 beats and a long pause. 3 beats and a long pause. Like breathing, like waiting. You blink and he turns. His face is older than the portraits. Maybe 10 or 11 now. Hair still tousled, still princely, but eyes that carry too many winters. He mouths something. You lean closer. He repeats it. One word. Stay. And for a moment, the idea wraps around you like a warm blanket. Stay. Stay where the clocks don't move. Stay in a world built from half-remembered lullabies and inked shadows. Stay with the boy who waits. But your better judgment, or at least the part of your brain still wired to earthly laws, snaps you out of it. You take a deliberate step back. The mirror shudders. The crypt hums, and then everything goes still, like it never happened. You exit the crypt the way you came. The iron door swings shut behind you, but not before you catch one last whisper. Like the sigh of wind through teeth, she's still watching. Back in the main castle, something has shifted. Portraits you passed earlier now seem slightly off. A hand in a different position. A figure who wasn't smiling before, now curling their lips. Just so. You try not to look too long. That feels like a test, and you're not confident you'd pass. Now for a moment of historical grounding. The mirrors. Castle Drew was renowned for its imported Venetian glass, commissioned in 1783 under Queen Lynette, but a fire supposedly destroyed most of the collection, except for 7 salvaged panels kept in a private chapel. No one can account for where they were stored between 1800 and 1850 when they suddenly reappeared, cracked and heavily tarnished. Quirky tidbit time. Some believe those mirrors weren't glass at all, that they were obsidian portals, gifted by a traveler from beyond the veil in exchange for the last breath of a royal line, which you'll admit sounds like something a bored librarian in 1874 would have scribbled after one too many sherries. Still, odd that 7 generations of the Drew line had only 1 child each, and all died mysteriously before turning 13. Now here's the open debate: was Alaric real, or a collective hallucination? Some argue he was a tulpa, a thought form, summoned by the shared grief and obsession of a family unraveling. Others think he was an actual prince, hidden away due to illness or deformity. But another group, a fringe subset of folklorists, believe Alaric passed through, not died, not disappeared, but transitioned into another realm entirely, one built from memory, grief, and unfinished lullabies. And the more you learn, the less absurd that sounds. You try to sleep again, back in your room, but the castle hums with that soft, relentless tune. You try plugging your ears, but the sound is inside your head. And at precisely 4:14 a.m., the painting across from your bed An innocuous landscape of a meadow and a broken fence blinks. You sit up. The fence is whole now, and standing beside it, a small figure. You don't need to ask who it is. The next day, you receive a message. Not text, not email, an envelope, cream-colored, wax seal with the eye. Inside one sentence, written in the same elegant, old-fashioned hand as Thea's letters. You've been seen. There's no return address, just an ornate watermark on the paper, a circle with 7 spokes, the symbol from the stone slab. You tuck the letter away, unsure whether to be afraid or honored, possibly both. And then you remember something the curator said soft, offhand, like a slip. Some stories remember who tells them. You start keeping your phone camera covered, mirrors, too, even the reflective glass in picture frames. You don't know what happens if you catch Alaric's gaze for too long, but you're not eager to find out. Still, one night, you catch your own reflection in a spoon. It's subtle, but your eyes, not blinking in sync. Your reflection still isn't cooperating. It blinks too slow, or not at all. When you move, it hesitates, just long enough to make you question whether it's lag or waiting. You try not to look at it anymore, or yourself. Your phone camera gets a sticky note, your bathroom mirror, a towel. It's the kind of paranoia that starts as a joke, but now it has teeth. You leave Castle Drew. You're not ready to admit it got to you, but let's be honest. You sprinted down that final staircase like something was behind you, and even now, driving away through the misty French countryside, your rearview mirror feels crowded. You glance at it once, never again, but it's not over. You fly home, different continent, different time zone. You think maybe distance will dull it, like you can outpace a haunting with airline miles. Nope. The night you return, your apartment feels off. The windows won't open. Your favorite lamp flickers in threes. Your phone starts playing voice memos you didn't record, soft humming, almost like a child practicing a lullaby under their breath. And everyone is labeled Alaric. You stop sleeping, not out of fear, okay. Yes, partially fear, but mostly because the dreams are too specific. You're standing in the Drew nursery again, only now it's different, fresher, alive. The wallpaper is crisp, the toys brand new, but there's always a mirror, always humming, and always him, Alaric. In one dream, you try to speak, ask a question. He answers with your voice. Worse, he says your full name, and you wake up already speaking the next line, even though you don't know what it means. Through silver gates, I will return. Let's shift gears. You dig deeper into folklore, not just France everywhere, and patterns start to emerge. In 17th century Wales, there's a tale of the Echo Prince, a child born under a blood moon who could only be seen in reflection. He vanished on his 12th birthday, leaving behind a humming that cracked the local chapel bell. In Romania, stories of the Oglindit, children who mimic but do not breathe. If one appears in your mirror, you must cover it within 3 days, or trade places. And in a small French village not far from Dreux, there's a folk song banned from schools after a rash of children began speaking in tongues. The lyrics, a variation of a medieval virelai. All these stories disconnected, forgotten, yet they circle the same drain. A being that reflects, remembers, and reclaims. A boy who never aged. A prince who never died. You call a historian friend, one of the few who believes you. She warns you about the Spindle Circle, a once heretical sect that believed reflections were soul echoes trapped between cycles of life. According to them, certain lineages, especially royal bloodlines, could anchor those echoes, create copies, or bridges. Prince Alaric might not have been the first, just the most willing. She sends you scans from a 1712 codex. The language is archaic, frayed at the edges of sanity. But one line jumps out. The mirror child is not born. He is chosen, suddenly. You wonder, was Alaric ever a baby at all? Or was he summoned? You remember the black-veiled mirrors in the crypt, the transit cloths, the humming, the way the nursery never aged. It's like Alaric never left, because he wasn't meant to live like us. He was always on the other side, and someone Erwald Thea opened the way and left the door cracked. Historical fact check mirror superstitions are ancient. Cultures from China to the Americas held beliefs that mirrors could trap souls or open passageways. In Victorian England, it was custom to cover all mirrors in a house where someone had died so their spirit wouldn't be caught in the glass. A lovely, not at all terrifying practice that maybe we should bring back. Your fringe tidbit of the section, a now destroyed chapel in the Pyrenees, once had a mural of the Mirror Boy, who could split himself into 7 forms. Each held an instrument. The final panel, the boy gone, only a broken lute remained. You're not sleeping anymore. You don't eat much either, but you listen, and that's the problem, because one night, the song gets louder. So loud it wakes your downstairs neighbor, who bangs on the ceiling with a broom. You try to explain. You try to say, it's not a speaker. It's in the walls. But then you see it. On your ceiling, 7 shadows, all small, all child-shaped, moving gently, like paper puppets in a mobile. And in their center, upside down, is Alaric. He's smiling now, not cruel, not even sad, just patient, and his mouth moves. It's your turn. You scream, or you think you do, but no sound comes out. You cover your mirrors, drape your screens, even throw out your sunglasses, but it doesn't help. Now it's not about reflection, it's about remembrance. You're part of the story now, and some stories do not end. You receive another letter, same envelope, no stamp. This time, no message inside, just a small black cloth, stitched with one word, transit. The cloth is heavy in your hand, not in weight. No. It's as light as air, but in meaning. That single word, embroidered in silver thread pulses, like it knows something you don't. Transit. The same word, etched into stone in the crypt. The one whispered by Thea's desperate pen strokes. The one tied to that odd sect who believed mirrors were not tools, but thresholds. You tuck it away, but you know better. You're too deep now. A step past curiosity, 3 paces beyond dread, squarely in the realm of initiation. You weren't invited, but the story's chosen you anyway. And once a story knows your name, it's already halfway through your door. You start writing everything down, all of it. The dreams, the humming, the children-shaped shadows. You stack pages in a drawer, then burn them just in case. But the words always return, scrawled on receipts, in fogged mirrors, on the backs of your eyelids before sleep. Then one morning, you wake up with a single word pressed into your skin, faint, like a sunburn but unmistakable. Stay. You didn't write it, and no one else has your skin. Time fractures, days blur. Your kitchen clock starts ticking backward. People speak to you in public, but their lips don't match their voices. And always, always, that tune, that soft lullaby, 3 beats, long pause, the hum of a prince who never aged. A part of you begins to understand why they hid him, why the Drew line wrapped itself in secrecy, in veils and rituals and silence. It wasn't shame, it was containment, protection, not for him, for the rest of us, because Alaric didn't belong in the world. He was a mirror soul, a siphon of memory and emotion, created or summoned or anchored through grief, so old it became song. And as long as someone remembered him, he would linger. And now you remember. Historians still argue whether the vanishing prince was real or myth, whether Castle Drew's child heir ever drew breath or was just a ghost story in royal drag. But even the skeptics admit no other child was ever publicly acknowledged. No birth certificates, no death records, just portraits, letters, an odd lullaby no one remembers learning, and a castle full of mirrors no one wanted to clean. You try leaving again, this time somewhere remote, mountains, no phone, no glass, just you and trees and paper books. And for a while, it works, until it doesn't. One morning, you hear humming in the pine trees. You turn, and standing between 2 trunks is a boy, not smiling, not sad, just present. He mouths a word. You don't need to hear it. You already know, so you run. But every path turns to corridor. Every clearing becomes stone hall. Every tree casts a shadow like a column, until you realize you're not in the forest anymore. You're in Castle Drew. The nursery door creaks open. You step inside, and it's exactly as you remember. Golden light, gentle dust, clock with no hands, toys swaying gently in a breeze that doesn't exist. And in the center, Alaric, still kneeling over his wooden animals. He looks up, and for the first time, speaks aloud. She's gone. You know who he means. Thea. He stands, walks to the mirror, and gestures. One hand, an invitation. You hesitate, because this is the moment, not of terror, but of choice. Stay, cross over, become part of the story permanently, or turn away, let him fade again, become myth, risk forgetting, which means losing him forever. The mirror shimmers. A scent reaches you, lavender, like a lullaby folded in parchment. Your fingertips graze the glass, and everything softens. Time unspools. Light fades to gray, then violet, then a darkness laced with music. You don't step through, but you don't turn away. You listen, because maybe that's what he needed all along. Someone to remember, someone to hear, someone to stay. And for now, that's enough. You lie back now, still as stone, and let the last traces of the story dissolve into the quiet around you. That humming has faded gentler now, distant, like an echo bouncing off the far corners of your mind. Even the mirrors in your room seem less sharp, less watchful, just glass again, just stillness. It's all right to let go of the tension in your shoulders. You're not in the nursery anymore. You're not in Castle Drew's. You're here safe, grounded, breathing slowly in a room that knows your rhythm and your name. Stories like this one of lost princes and secret halls, and lullabies that haunt instead of soothe. They stay with us for a reason, not because they're real in the usual sense, but because they say something quiet that our loud lives often miss, that memory matters, that listening, even to silence, matters. So rest easy now. Close your eyes. Let the edges of the tale dissolve, like fog lifting at dawn. Let the eerie notes of that lullaby settle into something softer, more distant, more like the wind brushing leaves than the echo of something waiting in the glass. You've traveled far tonight, through dreams and secrets and velvet-draped halls, but here, in the hush between heartbeat and sleep, there's only peace. No more whispers, no more mirrors, just the slow, steady sound of your breath and the calm that follows a story well told. The story is over. See you tomorrow night. Sweet dreams.